Before we start tying the knots, let's go over some basic terminology. The end that you have your surplus cordage at is your standing end. The end that you're going to be tying your knot at is your working end. If you take your working end and bring it atop your standing end, you have formed an overhand loop. On the other hand, if you bring your working end and you bring it underneath your standing end, you've formed an underhand loop. From here, you can form very famous knots such as the half hitch. If you break an overhand loop and put the working end through the loop, you've created an overhand knot or a half hitch. Similarly, if you bring your working end underneath your standing end and put it through the loop, you've created an underhand knot, also considered a half hitch. Another common misconception is the difference between a loop and a bite. When you do not cross over yourself, you have formed a bite. When your working end crosses over the standing end, you have formed a loop. These two are often confused but must be considered differently to correctly tie the knots. The first knot we're going to take a look at is the bowline. The bowline is a great knot for making a loop at the end of a line. To start this knot, you're going to form an overhand loop with your working end. Then you're going to put your working end through that loop. You're going to put it around your standing end. And then finally you're going to put it back through the loop and pull tight. And with that, you have formed a bowline which will not jam and is easy to tie and untie. In more critical applications, a double bowline can be used. It's tied very similar to the single bowline. To start, you're going to form the overhand loop, and then further up your line, you're going to form a second overhand loop. You'll then stack the loop closest to your standing end underneath the loop towards your working end. And with that, you take the working end through the loop just as before, around the standing end, and back through the two loops. To tighten this knot, you're going to first pull on your standing end, and then you're going to pull on the loop that you've formed. And with that, you have a double bowline, which is more secure than the original bowline. The next knot we're going to take a look at is the double fisherman's knot. The double fisherman's knot can be used to securely fasten two lines to each other. To start off, you're going to put one end over the other. You're going to then take the upper end and wrap it around once, and then wrap it around a second time. This will form two loops through which you'll take and put the working end through those two loops. Once you've tightened this, you have formed your first single fisherman's knot. Then, instead of mirroring the knot on the other side, I find it easiest to just flip your whole assembly over and retie it in the same fashion as before. You can easily adjust the slack you need as the knot is a sliding knot. First, you'll take your upper string and wrap it around once and wrap it around a second time. Then you'll put the working end through those two loops. Once you've pulled this tight, you can pull the entire loop outwards, and your two fisherman knots will join together. You'll know you've tied it right when you have the distinguishable two X's on one side and a double barrel on the other. Be sure to leave the tails about 10 times longer than the diameter of your string for safety. While the previous method does work for tying the double fisherman's knot, it can become quite difficult when you start working with smaller lines. The best way to tie this knot, I find, is to use your thumb to form the two loops. You can then use your thumb to keep that loop open while you put the working end through and pull the whole thing tight. Then you can pull more slack to tie your second knot, and then again use your thumb, wrap the two loops, and then put your working end through the loops. Once this is tightened down and pulled together with the other knot, you have formed your double fisherman's knot. The next knot we'll be looking at is the Alpine Butterfly knot, which can be used to form a loop in the middle of a line. First, you'll take a bite and fold it over to the left twice. This leaves you with two loops. You'll take the upper loop and fold it below everything else. Then you'll bring it around your standing ends and through the first lower loop that you created. Once you have pulled this tight, you have finished your Alpine Butterfly knot. Here's a close-up to make sure that you tied it right. Look for the X near the bottom of your knot. The Alpine Butterfly knot will accommodate a load in any direction and is often used for climbing applications. Next, we'll be taking a look at a well-known but very useful hitch. This is the Tautline Hitch. First, put your working end around your object. Then, bring it under your standing end and coil it twice around your standing end within that loop. Once you've come through the second time, you're going to bring it outside your loop, and then just create a half hitch around your standing end. The hitch is then tightened and dressed. Once it's done, you're left with a loop that can easily be adjusted but holds fast under load. This can be useful for setting up ridge lines and other applications. Finally, we will be taking a look at one more very useful hitch. This is the Constrictor Hitch. First, you're going to take your line and wrap it around your object once. Then you're going to cross over your standing line, wrap it around again, and bring it underneath your standing line. You'll see this X around your object. Just take your working end and slip it underneath and through the X. Once you pull this tight, you finish your Constrictor's hitch. This hitch grips itself and will not work loose, and can also be used to tie up the ends of bags. If you enjoyed this video or found it useful, please be sure to subscribe to the channel and stay tuned for more videos. Thanks for watching.